Hello and welcome, everyone. I know that many of us have been collecting stencils because they're very inexpensive and such great tools to use for card making. Well, today I want to show you a way to get more out of those stencils by combining it with masking. But instead of doing the tedious task of cutting up masks for our stencils, I'm instead going to show you how to use rubber cement for masking. It is so much faster and so much easier, and it's such an inexpensive product that's easy to find. I actually created 6 cards using this technique. I'll walk you through the basics. They're all pretty much the same. And these use new products from Simon Says Stamp that I think you will really love. If there's one type of card that I send more than any, it is an encouragement card. I send a lot of encouragement cards to fellow moms, other women, just to give them a little encouragement throughout their day. So this stamp set from Simon Says Stamp really tugs at my heartstrings, and I'll be using it quite often. I also have this new stencil from Simon Says Stamp. I love the sun on it. It also has some bits to make a kite if you wanted to, but I thought I would focus on the sunshine because I thought it kind of went well with the encouragement greetings. Now I've cut a bunch of pieces of white cardstock to 4 1/4 by 5 1/2, and I am masking around the edge of this stencil just so I can make sure the ink doesn't go off the edge of the stencil. And I use micro pour tape for that, but you could use any kind of tape. I have gathered 4 different colors of distress ink to apply over the sun. Now you could use 2 if you wanted to, but I wanted to have some fun blending these together. I'm using distress inks because they blend so easily, and I'm using an ink blending tool because it makes the process so quick. So I'm applying wild honey around the center of the sun, and then just a touch of spiced marmalade, which is an orange color, towards the very middle. But you could skip that if you wanted to. For the rays, I'm using scattered straw and squeezed lemonade, which is super bright, and I'm just going to put that on the outside of the rays. However, as I mentioned, you could use just maybe an orange and a yellow and just blend those two together. The key to blending is to overlap the colors pretty significantly, because that gives you easy blending and allows you to use less inks. If you don't have distress inks, you could use other inks for this, but I tell you, nothing blends quite as easily as a distress ink, so I encourage you to look into them. They're also available in tiny little cubes, which are very inexpensive. So after I finish that one sunshine, I'm just going to peel up the mask, and I'm going to do a sunshine on 5 other white pieces. I'm a big fan of making several cards while you have everything out, and I'm going to vary these a little bit between each card and change the greeting. So I'm kind of positioning the sun in a different place for each of the panels. If you wanted to, you could use markers to color inside this stencil. You could use maybe a marker spritzer. You can do anything you want to add color to that sunshine. Next, I wanted to add some clouds kind of in the background of the sunshine. And so I needed to mask off that sun, but I didn't want to have to cut that apart. So here's my trick. I'm going to take the stencil and line it right up with the ink. Now I could have done this right away after inking it, but I wanted to go through and ink up all of the suns at once. So now I'm putting the stencil right in place, and I'm going to take rubber cement. This is the stuff that we used as a kid to glue things together. It's inexpensive, and you can get it at many grocery stores or office supply stores. I'm taking some of the rubber cement out and putting it onto my craft sheet on any kind of work surface that you may have, and closing up the bottle so it doesn't dry. Then I'm taking an uninked ink blending tool. It's got a foam tip on it, and I'm dabbing that into the rubber cement and then dabbing it over my stenciled area. So I'm covering that entire inked area with rubber cement. If you don't have an ink blending tool, you can just use your fingers to rub it across. You just need a thin coating. You don't need much at all. You could also use like a makeup applicator to apply it. Then I'm going to peel away the stencil and then set that aside to dry. I will go ahead and put that rubber cement mask over all of my sunshine. So I'm just applying a thin layer of that rubber cement, and it actually doesn't take that long for it to dry at all. But this rubber cement will actually protect all that yellow ink underneath that sunshine while we add some blue ink for the clouds over it. So rubber cement is great for using for masking. And the nice thing is once it's dry, rubber cement is really easy to clean off because all you have to do is kind of pull it with your fingers, and it kind of rolls right up and just removes from the entire stencil. So it's easy to clean up. While the rubber cement dries on all of our little suns, which doesn't take long, I'm going to go ahead and get my stencil ready for the clouds. Now, I didn't have a cloud stencil, so I'm creating my own. I have this border die from Mama Elephant and a piece of scrap plastic that I kept from some packaging. And I'm going to cut the edge of this clear plastic with that cloud die. Now, if you don't have a cloud die, you can just, freehand little bumps to create your own little cloud edge. And if you don't have the clear plastic, you could use typing paper to create your own stencil. However, I like to use the plastic because then it's more durable and I can reuse it, and I can also see through it. For this, I'm using Tumbled Glass Distress ink. It's a nice sky blue ink, and I'm just rubbing the ink from the stencil that we just created onto our paper. So I'm just kind of creating a soft edge, not putting much ink down. I just want some soft edge clouds on our card. So you can see I'm starting with the ink blending tool on the cloud stencil and pulling it onto the paper. I will move that stencil cloud edge to different spots all over the card so that I can create a cloud background over the entire white piece. Now notice none of the blue ink is overlapping with the yellow sunshine because we covered that yellow with the rubber cement. That rubber cement is just a mask that is temporarily there while we apply this blue ink, and it prevents it from being overlapping and messy. Now the nice thing is, once we've done all of our clouds, we can easily remove the rubber cement. So all you need to do is take your fingers and kind of rub that rubber cement away, and look at that. Your sun is very nice and crisp and doesn't have any overlapping with the clouds. So this is a very fast way to mask an intricate image such as this sunshine. And you can see it was really quick to do, especially with the stencil. I will link here to a couple other videos I've done in the past where I did rubber cement masking over a stamped image and then did a background behind it. I just wanted to show you a way that you can use it also with your stencils. And check it out, you get a nice bright crisp sunshine with the clouds behind it. So I went ahead and repeated this process with all of my sunshine pieces here so that I have 6 cards that I can quickly pull together. On each of these cards, I added a different sentiment, and I wanted to show you how I did that. You could use a regular acrylic block and do regular stamping on each of these, but I wanted to show you how it's easy to do with the Misty stamping tool. I've used this Misty tool in many videos in the past. It's a great tool for getting great stamp positioning, along with many other techniques. So today I have my white panel with the sunshine, and I'm going to put it right in the bottom corner of my Misty tool. And I printed this grid. It's a download that you can get on Misty's website, which I will link to here. mysweetpetunia.com is the website. It's a free download, and what you do is you save it onto a thumb drive or a flash drive, take it to Kinko's, and have them print it on transparency, and then you cut it out. What's nice about this grid piece, this transparent piece that I have here, is I put it on my card, and I can use it to help me center up and make my sentiments straight as I position them on my card. So I just have it right over my card. Now I close the door on the Misty tool, and that transfers the sentiment over to the other side. So now it'll be ready to stamp. So if you've never seen the Misty before, just stick with me here. You'll see how it works. But my sentiment is perfectly positioned in the center of my card and ready to go. Now before I do the stamping, since I'm heat embossing here, I need to put my anti-static powder tool down. Distress ink stays wet for a little bit and will stick to all the powder. So you want to make sure that you put that powder down first. So now that I have that powder down, I'm going to ink up my sentiment with Versamark ink so that we can heat emboss this. So I'm inking up the stamp. I'm going to close the door right onto my card, which I'm making sure is in the bottom corner. Press that down, and we have the sentiment perfectly positioned. If you don't have the Misty tool, again, you could just stamp this with an acrylic block and you're fine. Now that my Versamark is stamped, I'm going to take this sparkle embossing powder. This is platinum sparkle embossing powder from Wow. I just think it's beautiful. I'm going to sprinkle it on and then heat emboss it. And thankfully, because I put that powder tool down first, I don't have powder sticking anywhere I don't want it. So I just flick off the extra and then I heat set it. And I just love that little bit of sparkle in the center of the sunshine. Now, if any of the powder is still on your work surface here from the powder tool, you can just brush it away with your hand and you'll never see it. Now, there are many advantages to using that Misty stamping tool that I've told you I like so much, and here's one of them. You can see me make a mistake here. I've inked up my stamp and I'm stamping it onto my piece here, but I forgot to use that anti-static tool. So when I went and I put all that powder on there, look at the powder is sticking all over my sunshine, and it is a hot mess. So because I use a Misty, I can fix this very easily. All I do is I take a Swiffer, which is a dusting cloth, brush off all that embossing powder and all that glitter, and I can redo this. However, you still see that Versamark ink of the sentiment. But because I use the Misty, I can stamp exactly on top of where I stamped before. But this time I'm going to remember to use that anti-static tool on my whole stamp piece first. So now I'm going to ink up the stamp and stamp it again, and it'll be positioned exactly in the same place. So you'll never know I made a mistake. Now, if you have an acrylic block and not the MISTI stamping tool, you can try to position it in the exact same place, but it's kind of tough to do. But I did not want to throw this piece away. So the MISTI saved me here. So now I'm just adding my embossing powder, and look, it's not sticking where I don't want it because this time I remembered that powder tool. I tell you, I forget many times to use it, and it really does save the day. So by the way, I use a Swiffer dusting cloth. That's just like a disposable product, but I keep it and I reuse it over and over again to clean up embossing powder and glitter. So I recommend having some of those handy in your craft room. So I went through and I did the same process with all 6 of the panels, and I stamped a different sentiment in the center of each. Now, anybody who's watched my videos before knows that I have a hard time stopping and walking away from a card. So I added some more to this. I decided every sunshine needs a little shimmer or some shine. So I put the stencil back on one more time, and I'm adding some shimmer spritz to this. I spray it from about 2 feet above, just a couple spritzes, and it adds just the right amount of shimmer to those suns. And look at it, really just catches the eye in real life. It's really quite pretty. You could use any shimmer mist for this, or maybe like a Wink of Stella glitter pen if you wanted to. Now I repeated this process on all 6 of the panels, and I glued them all onto blue note cards, and I'll show you how I did that here. I put adhesive on the back of the inked white panels, and then I took a piece of white fun foam that was slightly smaller and glued it to the back of it. This white fun foam is just craft foam that has some dimension, and it gives a nice dimension to our white panel, nice raised even dimension that will get through the mail nicely. So each of the cards is glued together a little bit differently, but I'll have pictures of all of them over on my blog. Another thing that I like to do is make the envelope match my note cards. So while I'm making the cards and have my supplies out, I go ahead and make a matching envelope. So I took the stencil and I put it onto a yellow Hero Arts note card, and on the back of it I just put a little bit of that yellow ink over the stencil, and now it matches the card. Very simple, it doesn't have to be much, but it pulls it together nicely. So that's it. That's a way that you can take your stencils and get more out of them by adding rubber cement masking, so you can create lots of fun backgrounds. If you're interested in these new products, they are linked below in my YouTube description, or you can head over to my blog at jennifermcguireinc.com, where I'll have much more information. If you found this video helpful, please let YouTube know by giving me a thumbs up. I'd appreciate it, and I hope you'll stop back by again soon.